It's not, like a lost Christmas letter to Santa. This is my mom.
Today on Investigate TV Plus, the ashes of the dead lost in the mail by the U.S. Postal Service. I'm Tisha Powell.
And I'm Lee Zurich. We alerted a member of Congress after uncovering hundreds of cremated remains sitting in a secret warehouse and get answers from the U.S. Postal Service.
Plus, more black men are needed at the head of the class.
There's always been a need to mentor, I believe, kids when they see you see your own people.
We examine the programs and teachers motivating young men to change the face of education.
Then we take you on one woman's journey of surviving a frightening rare illness that attacked her brain.
She came close to death multiple times.
In-depth stories that inform and inspire. You're watching Investigate TV Plus. The death of a loved one is painful, but what if after that death you had to go through losing them again?
Yeah, every year tens of thousands of cremated remains, also known as cremains, are shipped by the U.S. Postal Service. The USPS offers the only legal way to ship cremated remains and provides special labels and packaging for the shipment. But since 2015, hundreds of packages containing cremains failed to make it to their final destination. Instead, our investigation discovered they're sitting in a secret USPS building.
Reporter Kristen Crowley tracked down people across the country who are missing cremains and sat down with a U.S. senator to see what the government is doing to send these people to their final resting place.
She came into my life when I was 2 years old.
On paper, Amy Madru was Sarah Jelinik's stepmom. But to Sarah,
she's always my mom.
and she meant a lot to you.
She meant everything to me.
That's what made Amy's death from COPD in November 2021 so difficult.
It was really hard. It's been really hard. It's just like I lost my mom. I lost my best friend.
That loss was about to become so much harder than Sarah could even imagine. In December 2021, Sarah sent a portion of Amy's ashes through the U.S. Postal Service to be turned into a rock, a symbol of what Amy had been for her whole life. But Amy's cremains never made it to their destination.
It's not, like a lost Christmas letter to Santa. This is my mom.
Halfway across the country, Sarah had no idea she wasn't alone.
It's hard to comprehend. It's been so hard on our family.
Charlotte Dillon died unexpectedly on a visit to Oklahoma in early 2020. Her granddaughter, Michaela Eckler, says her ashes never arrived back home in South Carolina. And Michaela says USPS hasn't done anything about it. The Postal Service is the only carrier allowed to ship cremains in the USA, a responsibility Sarah and Michaela never questioned. But that was before they knew about an audit of how USPS handles cremains. That audit, released in July of 2023, found USPS was in custody of 452 undelivered cremains at its mail recovery center in Atlanta. It's important to note that number includes human and animal cremains, though both get the same label. Some had been there since 2015. In the audit, the Office of the Inspector General determined, quote, the Postal Service was not always in compliance with cremated remains acceptance procedures. Specifically, cremated remains packages were not always properly labeled. The reason that audit happened in the first place was because of this man.
I think at one point I told them it's not like they lost a rug that I ordered, they lost my mom.
Daniel Smith's mother's cremains were also lost in the mail back in 2022. The Indiana native contacted U.S. Senator Mike Braun, who demanded the audit. The Inspector General gave recommendations on what to do to prevent future loss of cremains, but didn't address what to do with the 452 cremains deemed undeliverable. It turns out they're still there, months after being discovered.
The Inspector General's office declined our request for an on-camera interview, but the United States Postal Service said it would answer our questions via email. It would not disclose the address of the mail recovery center, citing security concerns. It also said Michaela, Daniel, Sarah, or any other civilian cannot come inside to see if their loved one's cremains are there. So we asked, what efforts are being made to reunite these people with those lost packages? The USPS responded, the cremated remains packages are stored at the MRC indefinitely.
Senator Braun had no idea about this issue until we told him. He says it's unacceptable and vowed to look into it.
This is invaluable because it casts a broader light on things, and that means that I'm just hoping when we do get to the bottom of it that there is some satisfaction that they've been found.
I love that one.
For Sarah, while she's already waited far too long, she's hopeful a reunion is in her future.
I still do have faith, in part because you're here, you know, so in huge part because of that. So, you know, I have a good gut feeling that it'll work out, but it is just insulting.
Daniel hired a lawyer who told him the USPS would only be liable for the insurance value, about $100. The people we spoke to say they don't want money, they want accountability.
Investigative reporter Kristen Crowley joins us now. Kristen, what other details did the USPS give you regarding these cremains?
Letitia, I pressed them for months for answers. I was able to track down 3 people, but we know there are more out there. I asked USPS how many people have contacted it about missing remains, and it said in a roughly 2-year period, it had more than 2,100 service requests for cremated remains packages. I also asked, what can people do if their loved ones' cremated remains are lost? It gave a long list about proper labeling, tracking reports, and a link to its missing mail tracking sites. But I must mention, that has not helped any of the people we spoke with. It's a little too late. We do have the USPS's response posted to our website, InvestigateTV.com. Just search Missing Remains.
Still to come, a woman's brain attacked by her own body.
One day can't think, one day can't talk, start seeing visions.
We go in depth with the medical staff who solved the mystery behind her life-threatening symptoms. But first, there's a national need for more Black men to educate our youth.
These kids need this, and I think I can do something to help here.
We examine the shortage of educators who look like their students and how one school is blazing the trail for more Black men educators. You can watch Investigate TV Plus anytime online. Just subscribe to our YouTube channel at Investigate TV. You can catch stories and full episodes. Teachers are some of the most influential people in our lives, and while classrooms are becoming more diverse, a federal survey found educators are not.
Yeah, further research from the journal Early Education and Development found students taught by teachers who look like them learn better.
We take you inside a school in Louisiana where they're changing the face at the head of the class in hopes of improving outcomes.
From here, we would have gone what?
Veteran educator Lonnie Machin has teaching in his blood.
I come from 2 educators.
His love of math comes from his dad.
Math is life, the rest is just details.
Those details are what he teaches students at Thrive Academy in Baton Rouge to solve.
This means we either go a -1/10.
But Mr. Machin also knows he's considered a variable in the equation that makes up the U.S. education system.
You don't see a lot of us men in this line of work.
A recent survey by the National Teacher and Principal Survey echoes Mr. Machin. It found less than 2% of the nation's nearly 4 million public school teachers were Black men in the 2020-2021 school year. That makes Black men the second least represented demographic in teaching.
People always kind of like, you teach, and it's like, yeah, math, and it's like, yeah, that's kind of unique.
The same study found 77% of public school teachers were women.
You've seen women as teachers. Well, ever since I was in elementary school, all of my teachers were female. Mostly in middle school, all of my teachers were female. Then, you may have a coach, but as far as in core subjects, you never saw a lot of men, period, and in particular black men.
But at Mr. Machen's school, the administration is working to change the face at the front of the classroom.
For us, the percentage of our staff who are black males are right at 50%.
Paul Sampson is the superintendent at Thrive Academy. He says his formula to create a more diverse faculty started at his previous school when he was the assistant principal.
What we saw is that it had an impact on the students. It had an impact on the community within the school, and it had an impact on the community outside of the school.
So you do a lot of recruiting.
Yes.
Where do you find them?
I stay in contact with my when I was a teacher, the young men that I taught, and I'm always pushing education as a career choice.
And Superintendent Sampson isn't alone when it comes to fostering education as a career choice for black men.
Once a mister, always a mister.
Dr. Roy Jones is the executive director of Call Me Mister. Call Me Mister was started at Clemson University with the objective of increasing the pool of diverse teachers and developing mentorships that last long after participants graduate.
Each experience is a learning experience. It helps develop the dispositions, the attitudes, the practice.
A practice that evolved into more than a dozen Call Me Mister programs at other colleges and universities across the country. But despite the growth, Dr. Jones recognizes there's more work to do.
We have to change the image of education and the image of males being educators and teachers and really being community champions, both for their schools and in the community. I think there are stereotypical images of black males, and we're trying to flip that script.
Back at Thrive Academy,
parentheses, we went from here to P.
Geometry teacher Timothy West is doing his best to flip the script when it comes to educating the young men who look like him.
I'm telling them that I can relate it to things that are more relatable to them because I have kind of a better understanding of them and kind of their situations.
Do you think for a black male student, getting that instruction from you makes a difference?
They can put a face with somebody that they're familiar with, somebody they feel a lot more comfortable in receiving from. I would say yes, it's definitely an advantage for those that can get it.
In Mr. Machen's algebra classroom, he continues to analyze parameters and mentor students, knowing his words have already touched the lives of some of his former kids.
Like I get some stuff on Facebook, it's like, who does this sound like? It's like, Coach Machen. Well, I've said some things and it sticks with them, and that's what you want to do, especially if it's something positive that impacts a kid's life.
In the meantime, Superintendent Sampson presses forward with finding better solutions to the equation.
We need more like
All right, Tisha, what else do the teachers tell you about encouraging more young black men to become educators?
Well, the educators that we spoke to said there's a need for increased awareness, funding, and also support to help retain black male teachers. Several initiatives are being taken. These include the He Is Me Institute, which aims to build confidence and trust among black educators. Furthermore, organizations like the Watts of Power Foundation are actively recruiting more black male teachers. But I think this philosophy at this school is just amazing. Over 50% black male teachers.
It is so important, as we said, kids learn better if they're learning from people who look and are like them. Very nice.
Well, still to come, driven by his love for Volkswagen.
So I call it a box on wheels.
A widower is inspired to transform his garage into a moving history lesson.
But first, a woman in the prime of her life faces a rare and life-threatening illness.
1 in 1.5 million people get it. Why, Megan? How? Why? We still ask that. How? Why?
We hear more from Megan's mom and from the doctors and nurses who saved her daughter's life. Our in-depth coverage continues. You can get connected to InvestigateTV Plus on all social media platforms. Imagine being totally fine one day, then the next you're having hallucinations, seizures, memory loss, and even trouble talking.
Those are some of the symptoms of a rare, life-threatening condition called brain on fire disease, or anti-NMDA receptor encephalitis. It can cause inflammation in the brain. Neurologists say it occurs when the body's immune system mistakenly attacks the NMDA receptors in the brain, which are responsible for regulating communication among nerve cells.
The National Institutes of Health says the disease affects just 1 in 1.5 million people every year. Megan Dyer would be one of those people. Reporter Jason Berry goes in depth with the medical team who diagnosed her and brought her back from the brink of death.
Megan Dyer loves to travel, go for hikes, and play golf. Then suddenly everything changed when the Scottsdale woman got hit with a rare, life-threatening illness.
31, healthy, eats great, active, and then one day can't think, one day can't talk, starts seeing visions, can't remember French. She's fluent in French.
Back in March, Megan was admitted to Honor Health's John C. Lincoln Medical Center in Phoenix, where doctors and staff worked around the clock to figure out what was wrong with her. Megan was having nonstop seizures, respiratory failure, dementia, memory loss, and had to be put in a medically induced coma. After a week and a half, Megan was diagnosed with a rare form of encephalitis that causes swelling in the brain. It's called brain on fire disease.
The worst part for me was waking up and a month later kind of realizing that I didn't know how to do anything, and I had to relearn how to count, how to spell, how to tell time, how to do literally everything. So that was probably the weirdest part for me personally.
Megan spent more than 2 months in the hospital where she made a remarkable recovery thanks to the Honor Health medical staff that never gave up on her.
She came close to death multiple times, and each time we told that Grim Reaper to buzz off.
Hi, Megan!
Megan had a chance to say thank you to the medical team that saved her life. It was an emotional and slightly confusing reunion since Megan can't remember her time in the hospital. One nurse learned that Megan was a Swiftie, so she played Taylor Swift music every day to lift her spirits.
Oh, yes, that was the thing. Every night I'd come in, I'd be like, all right, are we listening to Folklore? Are we listening to Reputation? What do we want tonight?
Megan spent several weeks in physical therapy where she had to learn to walk and talk again. It's been quite an ordeal, but she should make a full recovery.
I would not be where I am without God, without the support of my family, and without the Honor Health team specifically as well.
Doctors think Megan got the rare illness through some type of virus that led to her immune system attacking her brain. Medical studies published by the National Institutes of Health show that brain on fire disease is often misdiagnosed as schizophrenia or some other mental illness, which can impact a patient's recovery. In Phoenix, I'm Jason Berry.
Up next, he was inspired to collect a classic.
I treat these cars as though they're living, breathing things. And in a way, it sounds a little silly, but in a way they are.
We take a detour to a Vermont garage turned Volkswagen museum.
From Herbie to the punch buggy game, the Volkswagen Beetle has earned icon status.
Yeah, the VW Beetle, or Volkswagen Type 1, was produced from 1938 to 2003, and as far as John Hamill is concerned, everyone is special.
Reporter Joe Carroll shows us how the VW inspires John's drive for life.
On Route 5 in Westminster lies an auto graveyard. Inside John's corner, the garage is very much alive.
Yeah.
John Hamill is a self-described car nut.
I've owned over 2,700 vehicles.
He adores all autos, but Volkswagen's revs his engine.
I treat these cars as though they're living, breathing things. And in a way, it sounds a little silly, but in a way they are.
John now has the shop to himself.
They call it a splitty, double windshield. I don't have to worry about running a business. I can sit back and enjoy all this. It's like a little empire that I've built.
But it's also bittersweet. He lost the love of his life 8 years ago to cancer. Ingram, or Inky for short, was married to John for over 50 years.
This is keeping you going?
For sure, for sure. Without this, I'd be in big trouble, yep.
The shop is part museum, part active garage. VW toys and memorabilia blanket the front.
Yeah.
Parts and pieces in the back.
Do you know where everything is?
I sure do.
Over 21 million Volkswagen Beetles were produced. Now a rare sight on the road. VW also made the Transporter.
So I call it a box on wheels.
Both models have something in common.
All right, here's the engines in the back.
The engine was just 60 horsepower.
It's just so much fun to own one, so much fun to have one.
However, his most prized possession is this 1939 manual, the first year the Beetle came off the assembly line. Even the car company's name was different.
What was it called?
KDF. It stands for Strength Through Joy.
In German, the manual also boasts,
"These cars are so well engineered and put together that one day they will be known throughout the world." 1939. They were inexpensive to not only operate, but to buy, to purchase.
no more. Now a vintage Beetle can go up to 10 times the original sticker price.
Yeah, 133,801.
At 84 comes the question, what's the future? John hopes a like-minded person will carry on the tradition. But for now,
my thing is I just want to share all these good things I've had with other people, and I want to keep these cars happy and alive.
And that's it for us here on Investigate TV Plus. I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Tisha Powell. Thanks for watching.
On the next Investigate TV Plus, a warning about water beads that are often labeled as non-toxic.
We had followed all the best advice, and yet we were sitting here in the hospital.
Hear from a mother who nearly lost her daughter and why government safety officials say parents should not always trust the toy's packaging.